Stroke, cerebrovascular accident. The etiology. A stroke is a cardiovascular disease that affects the arteries leading to and within the brain. Strokes are damage to the brain from the interruption of its blood supply. There are two types of strokes, ischemic and hemorrhage. Specific cells and organs that are affected. The brain requires oxygen and nutrients to flow to the brain in order for it to fully function. Strokes affect the cells of the brain and causes the cells to die. Once these cells die, there's no way that brain cells can be replaced, so once they're gone, they're gone. The two types of stroke is ischemic stroke, and this happens when the supply of blood to the area is interrupted and caused by a blocked blood vessel or by a blood clot causing the brain cells to die. So if your brain receives too much blood or too less of blood, it can kill the brain cells that we do have, which leads us to the hemorrhagic stroke. This is bleeding of the brain. Like I stated, if you have too much blood that comes to the brain, then it will cause swelling and the blood collects a clot that increases the pressure on the brain tissue, which is what causes the rupture and kills the blood cells in that other form. Organ systems and functions that are usually affected is the brain is a vital organ that connects with a lot of our everyday movement. Believe it or not, like the brain controls us to speak. It gives us a train of thought. It gives us sensation, able to determine hot or cold. So it does control a lot that we may not think that it does. It does voluntary movement, things like that. The brain is made up of three different parts: cerebrium, cerebellum, and brainstem. These three parts are affected by the stroke. Signs and symptoms. One of the most recognizable is paralysis or numbness to a victim's arm, face, or leg. So if you kind of pay attention to a patient, most of the time you can hear one of the doctors over here and say, hey, can you smile for me? I just want to see if your face is crooked. And the person may be like, okay, why are you asking it? Oh, okay, I'm just trying to make sure you're not having a stroke. So paying attention to the person's face and how they smile. If one of their sides seems really like droopy or droopy on one side, that is a sign of them having a stroke. The patient may have a speech that may be slurred, stuttered, or they may have a hard time forming words. Also, the person can have a vision decrease in eyesight. Their vision can become blurred, or they can just lose complete sight in one eye. The change in sensation. So that person can become unable to tell if something is very hot or really cold. And that's not a good thing, because if they are unable to tell if something is really, really hot, they can touch like a fire, have a simple fire, not even knowing that they're on fire. Like they're burning themselves, they're damaging themselves, they cause bodily harm to themselves, which is not a good thing as well. Treatments and prevention to take care of yourself or either try to avoid even causing a stroke. In most cases, strokes occur to those with high blood pressure. So staying on top of that can help reduce the risk. You can take aspirin to kind of be like a blood thinner. Some patients can get it from heart disease. If you have a heart disease, you have a higher risk of getting a stroke. Some disorders can result in blood clots that may break loose and block vessels leading to the brain. So you want to make sure that you're staying on top of yourself and making sure that you're adapting a healthy lifestyle. Being overweight can cause more heart problems. And if it causes a heart problem, then if you have a higher risk once you have like a heart attack or anything like that. You have a higher risk of having a stroke. So you might, if you haven't had that, you might want to participate in activities that raise your heart rate. So swimming, walking, running, like just being active and not just being like lazy. The consequences. Speech. The victim may become unable to talk for themselves. So, I mean, just imagine you're sitting here and you're unable to say anything that's wrong with you. So something can be wrong, and instead of you saying something, you can't. Paralysis to the victim it can be paralyzed from the waist down. You can go without feeling yourself. Like you can be numb from the bottom down. Or worst case scenario, coma or death. So this can really affect you. Like you need to make sure that if anything, you're staying on top of everything with yourself, being aware of your health. It's very important that you're doing these things. Because if not, then there's a higher chance that you can be on the verge of a stroke, which, leads me to myself, makes me want to make sure that I'm staying on top of what I need to do. So, you might want to just take care of yourself, because once you have a stroke, it's pretty much kind of like you're kind of brain dead. You're unable to do things for yourself, and no one wants to walk around not able to do anything for themselves. My references is from hopkinsmedicine.org. I got a lot of my facts from the differences of what can happen, what affects, and things like that. I also went to idph.state.il.us. That gave me a lot of statistics on what happens to your blood, like what happens to the brain cells when the blood clots do occur. And the number one place that I used was the strokeassociation.org, 2016 American Heart Associations, Inc. I went there just because I feel like that was reliable. It's about strokes, and what better way to determine a stroke or look up information about a stroke besides a website that's dedicated to that. So that was all I have. Hope it was right, and thank you.